This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. Beautiful day, Monday the 1st of June. Eddie, how are you?
Very well. How could you not be well? I mean, what a day. What a day. I went shopping this morning. No queue, straight in. Crash bang wallop. Got everything I wanted. Out. Now at work. Life is sweet, mate.
Good to hear. Now, I noticed over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of events over the years that have fallen on specific days. Obviously, we had Froch Kessler, Froch Boutte, Froch Groves recently, but June the 1st, last year, not one of your best.
Well, it probably was one of my best, wasn't it? Because in terms of a show, it was phenomenal, wasn't it? I mean, you had Katie Taylor in an unbelievable, undisputed fight with Pursoon. You had Callum Smith, great knockout over in Dam. You had Josh Kelly in a great fight. You had Tommy Cole and Algieri. And then you had one of the biggest upsets in heavyweight boxing history. It was a night that no one will ever forget. It was a sold-out Madison Square Garden. Me, like a dickhead, put my black tie on, didn't I? Thinking, you know, first sold-out event at the Garden, I'm going to wear a dicky bow, aren't I? What a knob. It was just mad. It was just mad. I mean, watching it back now, I can sit here and smile now because we know what went on and happened. But it was really tough to take. I remember going up to the press conference after AJ was with the doctors, and they said he weren't allowed to go. And I went up there and I had to answer all the questions, and I was numb, to be honest with you. You know, when you're sort of standing up there, but you're there, but you're not there, kind of thing. And I've got all these questions firing out. Yeah, what was wrong with AJ? Why he didn't look right? Well, you know, what did his dad say to you in the ring? Is this the end for him? And it's like, oh my God. And then Aj-Ruiz comes up, and you've got to, you know, show him the respect, and you've got to let him have his moment. And then I went back downstairs, and then AJ said, look, I want to do the presser. And then he went up, as you remember, and done the press conference. And I just remember walking out of Madison Square Garden, and I think the team were like, do you want to get a car or something to your hotel? And I went, no, you know what? I'm just going to walk. And I was staying down in Soho. And anyone that knows New York, it's quite a long way. And I just walked. The whole way. And as I was walking sort of for the first half a mile past MSG, it was just full of Brits. Eddie, what the fuck? What's happened now? Oh, you've had a mare, you have. Oh, Eddie. I'm thinking, please leave me alone. And I just walked back. It took me about over an hour. And yeah, I remember that my missus was there with the kids as well, and they couldn't understand it either, you know, like they're massive AJ fans. And I just got back to the room, and everyone was fast asleep. And I just sat up all night, really. And then they left in the morning on an early flight. And I got them sent to the airport, and I had to start Triple G fight week with Steve Rolls the week like straight after. And it was just, and it's like, you know, times like that where you just got
at the same venue.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like however painful it was for me, it's nowhere near as painful as it was for AJ. But when you got to go straight back to it on the Monday, just fronting it out, you know, sitting down with you and all the media, and you know they're not going to be asking about Golovkin against Steve Rolls. So probably 50% of them are over the moon. You know, some people, maybe not reporters, but, you know, some people in boxing, obviously, oh man, I'm so sorry to see AJ lose, man. It's like, yeah, of course you are. And you just got to front it up, and you got a bit, and then, you know, that was all about building towards the rematch from there. And also going around to see him. You know, I went around to see AJ on the Sunday in his house. He didn't leave the house for about 4 or 5 days. And he, you know, probably like me, put on a brave front, but I knew deep down how much he was hurting. You know, he was really hurting.
Do you know that night? So you've gone back, done your long walk, etc. But I mean, did you just lay in bed thinking about, like you just said, what the fuck just happened?
You start sort of you know, you go back over the chain of events. Obviously, everyone who knows about that fight knows that Jarrell Miller failed his drugs test, and we brought in another opponent with, what, 3.5, 4 weeks to go. And you just start thinking to yourself, you know, was it my fault? Should I not have suggested Ruiz? I mean, ultimately, Rob and AJ and, you know, we'll always have the final say. But collectively as a team, we all approved Andy Ruiz, you know? So I started, you know, and when we announced Andy Ruiz, we were getting loads of pelters saying, oh, what, this bloke, useless, he's fat, he's this, he's blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards, it was like, oh, my God, I can't believe Hearn chose Andy Ruiz. What was he thinking? It's like, and then you start thinking to yourself, you know, did I fuck up? Because I feel like 99 times out of 100, or certainly 90 times or 95 times out of 100, AJ should beat Andy Ruiz. But then I started thinking about, I had the opportunity to go with Trevor Bryan, right? He was cheaper. He was a lot worse. And he had Don King. But he looked good in a pair of shorts. And I was just sort of questioning myself, saying, why the fuck didn't you just go with Trevor Bryan? And the answer was because it would have been a joke. And I would have got even more stick. But it was the first time that I felt that maybe I'd let my concern for what people think help me make a decision. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? So, like, people were saying to me, Eddie, there's 3 weeks. No one's going to moan that it's Trevor Bryan. He's number 1 in the WBA. And I was like, yeah, but I don't believe that's a very good fight. And, you know, it's a US debut, blah, blah, blah. And then when I announced Andy Ruiz, and everyone's talking about, oh, he looks like this in a pair of shorts, blah, 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 I started thinking to myself, bloody hell, I should have gone with Trevor Bryan. And then when he lost, I just thought to myself, you know, did I fuck up? And I, you know, spoke to AJ, spoke to Rob, and, you know, we all, again, I gave them a list and they approved Andy Ruiz, and he was the right opponent, actually, but it didn't work out on the night. So, yeah, it took me if I'm honest, it took me a good few days. And, you know, it was, I really remember that week because on the Saturday of the Gennady Golovkin fight was my 40th birthday.
Remember.
And I woke up in a hotel room on my own on my 40th birthday with my missus and my kids at home. I just thought to myself, what the fuck? And she packed some cards for me, and, you know, I had pictures of the kids and stuff like that, and video messages coming through from them. And I just thought, I'm not sure I can be arsed with this anymore, to be honest with you. It was probably the lowest point I've had in boxing. But then, like, you start thinking, you just can't let these fuckers win. You know, we know that, and I'm not sulking saying, oh, some people don't like me and some people don't want to see me do well, but it's the truth. So you just can't let them win. And I just thought to myself, we have to get this back up and running. We have to get this rematch. I know he can beat him in a rematch, but I can't lie, AJ is a huge part of our business. And, you know, of course, representing the heavyweight champion, the unified heavyweight champion of the world, biggest commercial star in the sport, like, and for it to see him lose was bad personally, but also was bad from a business point of view as well, of course. And then you start to think about how important the rematch is, because obviously if you lose the rematch, then it's not, you know, you could say it's over. So it was a tough week. And then the week after that, I went to Ibiza for my 40th birthday, which was good. I still can't tell you that I was like full of beans, because I weren't really. I was still thinking in the back of my mind. And I'll be honest, it was only really in Saudi where I got over it, you know, because then it sort of, I'm a big believer in fate, and everything worked out, you know, and I felt that we all learned a lot from that experience, and I believe AJ is a better fighter through that experience as well.
I just wanted to kind of quickly touch on some of them other fights that have obviously just popped up on the timelines, and some of the best nights over the years. Tony Bellew at Goodison, Froch Bute in Nottingham, and obviously Froch Groves recently as well. But just, I mean, these are some of the best events over the last sort of 20 years.
I think it's only when you watch it back, really, and you start to think about how lucky we are have experienced it. You know, like that post you put out the other day, you know, with Froch and Groves on the pitch at Wembley in the press conference when he shoved him and stuff like that. And you look back, don't you, and you just smile and you think, fucking hell, did that actually happen? And because that feels like another part of my life, really. Like, I don't know. Do you understand? I don't know if you feel the same, but it was me, but it weren't me, kind of thing. And it just makes you realise how lucky you are to have been involved in occasions like that and nights like that. And it makes you realise how much you miss it. You know, it makes you realise that from everything, you know, watching press conferences back to weigh-ins. You know, I was looking at the weigh-in from Froch Groves. That was really the first weigh-in that I've done where there was 5,000-6,000 people. It was at Wembley Arena. Do you remember? I was like, fucking hell. It was really the week that changed everything for boxing. It took it to a whole new level. And, you know, the Bellew-Makabu fight, that was right up there. Might even have been the best of all time, to be honest with you. And then Froch Bute. Bit sad as well, because I think I don't know if you get it as well, but kind of look back at yourself and think, wow, it's just like, not that I didn't care then, but I was free rolling, you know, where it was like, this is just, I don't really know what I'm doing, but fuck, like, there was no pressure really, because there was no expectancy. I mean, if you look on my Twitter today, I retweeted a tweet that someone put up, the box rec for my first ever show, which was Darren Barker against Sparta. You look at the undercard and I think, if I would do that now.
Was that at London Olympia?
Yeah, I would get absolutely lynched. I mean, the chief support was an 8-rounder. And there was just like a few 6-rounders added on the bottom, you know? And I think about how far we've come. But unfortunately unfortunately, I guess fortunately and unfortunately, with success comes expectancy, doesn't it? You found the same thing. Where, you know, you would used to start out, if you got a little exclusive interview, it's like, fucking hell, well done, Coop, bloody hell, unbelievable. Now it's like, what are you going to get next? Because you're expected to perform. You're expected to get the big names. You're expected to give people value for money and entertainment. And with that comes pressure. Not moaning, but it's a different kind of enjoyment sometimes. You still get the buzzes and the ups and downs. But back then, I was just thinking, do you know what? I'm just going to take on the world. I don't give a fuck. So now it's more about protecting your position than being footloose and fancy free. And if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't.
You know, that Sparta fight. So I came to the presser and the weigh-in, yeah? And at the weigh-in, I remember coming up to you. You won't remember this, but I come up to you and said, Ed, is there any possibility of coming to the fight tomorrow night? And he was like, yeah, no problem. And you gave me 3 tickets, right? And I didn't go to the fight because I lost the tickets. I genuinely lost tickets. And my missus at the time was going, just ring him up. He's a multi-millionaire. Ring him up, you'll get some more tickets. I went, no, there's no way I could ever let him know that I've lost these tickets. I found them tickets for Barker and Sparta 5 years later, that like literally wedged in the back of the sofa. But I didn't want to ask you for more tickets. I would have done now. But... What's that?
Darren always hates me telling the story about the tickets for that fight because he boxed on the show that we did with Audley Harrison. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And that was like my dad was still promoting at the time, well, sort of unofficially. And Darren was with Hennessy, and he sold 1,000 tickets for his European title fight. Sold it at Ali Pally. Bear in mind, obviously, he's from Barnet. But so when I signed him, he was telling me that he had this big Chelsea following and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Chelsea were away on the day of the fight with Sparta. So he took 1,100 tickets or something like that. And any promoter will tell you, when you have a weigh-in and the fighter brings back the tickets, the worst thing you can ever see is when they reach into their man bag or whatever it is, or their bag, and pull out the returns. You know, you always hope to see a wad like that. And I just remember Lee Barker just putting out these returns. And it was like, I think he gave back about 600 tickets. And I started to think to myself, fuck, it's not as easy as you thought it was it? So, but it worked out well with Darren. And, yeah, I just think, yesterday I was around my mum and dad's, and I was just looking back at pictures of, like, from the age of 2, you know, all through like 7, 10. And you just sometimes think to yourself, don't you, where the fuck's it gone? you know. And with everything that happened, it gives you time to reflect and just sort of think about what makes you happy, because you can get caught up in the rat race in this life. You know, and I feel like it's important not to, because before you know it, your time's nearly up, and then one day you're going to look back, and you don't want to look back with any regrets, do you? But at the same time, you've got to have drive, you've got to have determination, you've got to have will to win, you've got to have something that gets you out of bed in the morning, but you've also got to have happiness. And I think this little break gives you a little chance to think about things that you might have been doing a bit too much, or you might not have been doing right, or things that you might have neglected, or things that you've realised are more important than other things. So it's been a good break, and I'm excited, and I'm very motivated to come back and experience those kind of things that we've experienced there, because that's what, you know, when I look back on the greatest times of my life, as well, you know, obviously the family time, but they're the ones that you just mentioned are the greatest nights and days of my life. So I'm very lucky to have experienced them, and I want more of them.
That Froch Groves fight was the first time that we'd attached a sponsor to a fight week. That was Betway. So we'd never had a sponsor, and that fight was deemed obviously that big where we had our first sponsor just for that week for Betway. Thought we'd had it off. Generally thought we'd had it off. Like, yes, actually going to get paid for this.
We never look back. We never look back.
No, because MTK came along 3 months after, but the original sponsor, yeah, was Betway back in the day. Edward, 2 questions rolled in one here. So I'll let you talk freely about this. 1, why wasn't Whyte and Ngannou press conference released? Secondly, how realistic is this fight to actually take place?
Okay. Number 1, someone. Oh, boys. It's Frankie Smith and Rossi G.
Whoa.
So someone was talking to Team Ngannou from our office about doing some stuff, and obviously there's been a lot of hype about fight and stuff like that. So obviously we've been doing this rival stuff with StubHub. So we just said to them, listen, do you want to do the StubHub rivals interview, blah, blah, blah. So they said, yeah, no problem. So it all happened real quick. I got a call saying, look, do you want to jump on it tonight? I'd actually had a few beers in the garden, and I thought, yeah, you know what, we'll do it. So we did it, and then, of course, the press releases followed. Eddie Hearn to stage press conference between Whyte and UFC star Ngannou, blah, blah, blah. So all of a sudden, we got a phone call from Team Ngannou saying, oh, I've got to take it, you know, you can't put it out, it can't go out now, blah, blah, blah. I said, why? I said, because, you know, we didn't tell the UFC about it. I said, how can you not tell the UFC about it? So anyway, we were due to announce it the next day, and Dana messaged me and said, with a screenshot of the press release saying Eddie Hearn to hold press conference. And he said, what's this? I said, no, it's not really. No, all it is an interview. He said, oh, yeah, our team didn't know anything about that. I said, I'm really sorry. I expected him to tell you. Do you want me to pull it down? And he just said, look, I'd rather do something altogether. So I didn't want to fall out with him. And I don't think the promotional team were overly pleased that they didn't know anything about it. In hindsight, we probably should have told them about it, but I just expected Ngannou to do that. So I just said to Dana, listen, we'll pull it down and we'll do something else. We had a chat about the fight. I think he's coming on Hearn Bellew show this week.
Really?
Talk about it, yeah. He's not mad on it, to be honest with you. Like he said to me, he said, I'm not mad on crossover fights. I said, the difference between this one is, yes, it's a crossover fight, but it's 2-legged. So we do one in the cage, one in the ring.
Oh, okay.
So for me, that gives everything even more credibility. So you're saying Dillian Whyte will box in UFC and Ngannou will box in the ring. So, I don't know. I mean, the head-to-head, we filmed the head-to-head. I've still got the footage. We may even put it out with the UFC. It's quite good. I mean, there was one bit in there. I don't know. Did you hear about the Sam Jones thing?
Yeah, vaguely. I spoke to Sam about this. So.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people?
Dillian Whyte was on a bit of a wind-up, told Ngannou that Joe Joyce dropped him in sparring and that Sam Jones told him. And Ngannou went absolutely berserk. Said he's going to phone Sam Jones now. And I actually spoke to Sam Jones the other day. Apparently he had a couple of calls from him talking about it. So it was good. It may end up getting aired, but I just felt that without them knowing about it, it was probably... I probably did jump the gun, to be honest with you. I probably should have thought about it a little bit more. It didn't help that we called it a big E press conference to virtually unveil a future fight, when really all it was a chat on Zoom.
So, yeah, you're saying he's not massively up for it, but...
No, he just said, I think, judging by his interviews at the moment, and he's quite right, he's saying that we've got enough problems on our plate at the moment with the UFC, and boxing's got enough problems on their plate, so let them get on. And listen, we're not talking about doing this now or in the summer. We were talking about doing this towards the end of the year. So who knows? But I've actually not become a UFC fan, but I've been following it a bit more now, and I'm looking at the dynamics of the matchups. And obviously, you've got the John Jones fight. Everyone wants a load of money for that fight, but there's a lot of money to be made with Dillian Whyte against Ngannou, and I know Dillian would take it tomorrow.
Matchroom fight camp update. Dates, potential fights, what can you give us?
So we're looking now at finalising the gentleman behind this laptop. We're going to be going through all the fight cards now, trying to close everything off. We're speaking to the fighters now, confirming their dates with them. At the moment, still a working date of July 25th will be our first date. That is also the final weekend of the Premier League season. And then we will run 4 weeks from there. So 25th, 1st of August, 8th of August, and the 15th of August. At the moment, 15th of August, the plan still is to hold Whyte Povetkin on August the 15th. There'll be an announcement today, which will probably be out by the time this comes out, about the July date that's obviously now not happening at Manchester Arena for Dillian Whyte Povetkin, and also some postponements of some other dates that were still locked in for July. So July 25th, the cards are looking great. You know, we've got 5 fights per card, so we can't really afford any poor fights at all. And everyone seems to be stepping up. And I'm very excited. As you can see, we're ready to get underway here. That's where it will take place. The flagpole is always shows you the sign in the middle of the ring.
What fights have you got actually confirmed then? Like in your head confirmed?
So we got loads of, I mean, when you go through the possible order, you know, we're trying to make Conor Benn against Chris Jenkins, which we're speaking to Queensbury about, and Andy Alien. And hopefully, you saw Johnny Garton announce his retirement.
Yeah,
right?
we saw that.
Good luck to him. So, Conor Benn is Chris Jenkins is mandatory. So, and we can stage that fight. That would, in an ideal world, that's the fight I would like to headline on July 25th, to be honest with you, to start us. British and Commonwealth welterweight title, Conor Benn against Chris Jenkins. I think it's a great fight. Other fights that are already made, sort of moving from other cards, you've got Simon Vallily against Fabio Wardley for the English heavyweight title. You've got James Tennyson against Gavin Gwynn for the British super featherweight title. Lightweight title. You've got Chris Billam-Smith against Nathan Forley for the Commonwealth cruiserweight title. You've got Clay against Congo, of course, as well, which I saw you stealing the other day. We've got Terry Harper against Natasha Jonas for the WBC world title. We've got Zelfa Barrett's got to get out. Cash Farouk's getting out. We've got Ted Cheeseman against Sam Eggington. It's a fight that I'm trying to make. I think it's a great fight. You've got Jason Quigley against Jack Cullen. You've got Callum Johnson looking to fight. You've got Shannon Courtney's going to fight Rachel Ball, it looks like, in a really good fight. Loads of stuff. Probably another. In fact, we're going to get to a stage where we can only hold 20 fights. So you've got John Doherty, you've got Dalton Smith, you've got Jordan Gill against Reece Bellotti. We're trying to make, I mean, a really good 50-50 domestic fight. So I'm excited that I think we can get to a stage, probably, I want to say at the end of this week, just in case we don't, but early next week, where we can come out and say, ladies and gentlemen, this is fight camp. And there's still some hurdles to climb.
Will all these fights contain fighters that live in the UK or Ireland?
Yes, apart from the only 2 international fights at the moment, and things can change all the time, that we're looking to stage is Whyte Povetkin and Taylor Serrano. Everybody else will have...
That's what I meant, the rest of the cards, yeah.
All British matchups, with the exception of if Mr. Quigley is coming. Obviously, it'll be Ireland, but, you know.
Okay. obviously you're not going to tell me exact numbers, and I'm not going to ask you exact numbers, but what kind of financial hit is both fighters in White and Povetkin taking to do this?
None at the moment.
Really?
No. But I mean, we're still talking. I don't want... Listen, every promoter is going to try and get fighters to take less money. And there will be times where we will have to talk to fighters about money. But I would rather make great fights and give them the money. What I've got a problem with is the shit fights for great money. Because you know the only one who gets moaned at for shit fights? Me. And you know the one who doesn't want shit fights? Me. It just don't make sense. So what I'm saying is if you want to fight in fight camp, you've got to be in a real fight. And actually that should be the way of the world now as we move forward. We also understand that fighters who are starting out their careers, fighters who are coming off a loss, they can't all just be in 50-50 fights. But they've got to be competitive. And I think the great thing about all British fights is we know people are going to be coming to win. We know their background. We know their history. We've watched the tapes. Sometimes you're struggling for an opponent. You'll bring in an international opponent. You look at their record. I'm sitting there at ringside going, please, God, don't let this geezer be pony. And sometimes you look at Fowler's opponent the other week, you know, Jack Flatley pulls out and we've got a week to find an opponent. We bring that gentleman over from Ghana who's got a decent, solid record. I mean, he's slipping all over the place. One round, I'm thinking, I've paid you a fortune. I've spent 4 return flights. Fowler's got a nice few quid and I'm just being called a muppet. What is the point? So this gives me a good excuse to say, no, you can fight him or him. Which one do you want? And if it's a no, it's not, right, fuck off, see you later. It's, okay, you're not in fight camp. We'll talk later in the
year. 2 questions rolled into one here. Possibility of Fowler and Ammo. And I know you addressed it a little bit on your Instagram live recently, but Ammo's sparring video, which is come under a lot of criticism for.
Yeah, I think it's very naive of Ammo to put that up. He has very limited experience of boxing all round. Now, I'm sure he regrets it, but I'm not looking to sort of like throw someone out to the wolves for putting a sparring video up that he shouldn't have.
What did you say to him?
He just texted me a couple of times. He knows he shouldn't have put it up. But he's excited, he's buzzing, he thinks he's learned a lot. And, you know, he wants to go out and show everyone how dangerous he is. Well, show how dangerous you are against the right people. You know, that guy, for me, you should never put sparring footage out anyway. It's kind of like the code of conduct, to be honest. But not sparring like that, not a one-sided spar. Fowler against Ammo, absolutely love it. No time soon, to be honest with you. But 2021, I love it. You know, Fowler's up for fighting everybody. And so is Ammo. But Ammo is a novice. I mean, he's very dangerous. He's very talented. He's a great athlete. But he does need to learn. But, you know, listen, for the whole fact that he shouldn't have put the video up, listen, everyone knows who Ammo Williams is now, good or bad. And that's half the game. You know?
Is it?
Of course it is.
Yeah, but you're talking like by any means necessary to get your name out.
As you well know, you don't have to be loved.
No, you don't have to be loved.
You don't. You need people to have an opinion of you. That's what you need. You need people to be interested. You need people to actually think about you. And right, he went for a stage where everyone thought about him and thought, what a tosser. But that's all right. And then he apologised, then he spoke about it. And some of those people went, do you know what? He's a good bloke, Ammo Williams. I like him. Some people said, you're still a tosser. But it don't matter. You now know who Ammo Williams is. So when he comes over and fights in the UK, you'll know who he is. You might boo him. It's not a problem. But I'd rather you were known than not known. But better to be known for the right reasons.
Okay, I'm hearing you. Eddie, I know, again, you addressed this kind of on your Instagram live, and you said that there wasn't really a situation to address with Dazn, but can you make some comments on kind of the speculation in newspaper reports, etc., regarding Dazn?
I think really, no, I can never be an official spokesman for Sky Sports or Dazn. But when you have a subscription service that provides live content and live sport, and there is no live sport, and there hasn't been since February, clearly it's not the greatest time for a business. And it's not been a great time for our business because we're a live events company. We've had no live events, right? So when you talk about the troubles at Dazn, this is really generated mainly by bots. If you look at my account, every time I tweet, I will have 3 or 4 bots come back. Dazn here's a link to Dazn. Here's this. And it baffles me that people are so, you know, for a product that is actually supplying such great value for money for fight fans, it baffles me that some people want to see it not succeed. So I have a meeting at this very desk, actually, tomorrow with Dazn to put in place the schedule starting from July or August, putting the whole schedule in place into the end of the year. That should tell you everything you need to know about Dazn and their intentions. Their intentions are to continue to put great boxing nights together, to continue to put a great schedule together, to continue putting the best fighters on the world on their platform, and to continue giving great value for money for fight fans. They're not going anywhere, unfortunately, some people.
What about their launch in the UK, which was meant to be for Canelo Saunders on the 2nd of May? Obviously, that never happened. So what's their plans to kind of launch in the UK now?
Remember, it's not a UK launch. It's a global product that Dazn will be offering, that will be available in the UK. And it's still the intention to do that. But they want to do that, by the way, and launch that off the back of a big fight. As you know, that was due to launch off the back of Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders. So let's see what happens with Canelo in September. Let's have to see, will he fight Billy Joe Saunders? What's going to happen? There's a lot to discuss, but all fight fans need to know is that there's a meeting tomorrow, Dazn, to put the schedule together till the end of the year and beyond, and absolutely to remain foot on throttle.
So, in a nutshell, in summary, Dazn are not looking to bail out.
Well, you don't bail out. We can talk about the level of investment that's gone into Dazn. Dazn are a very, very, very attractive product for huge organisations that are looking at potential sports streaming. And we know that Mr. Blavatnik has invested a lot of money, access, and they've been unbelievably successful. Let's not kid ourselves. People talk about, oh, Dazn in the US, they haven't really made it. What are you talking about? We haven't even done 2 years in America. Look at the fights they've had. Look at the fighters they've had. Look at the numbers they've had. And actually, when you look at the run that we had with Canelo against Kovalev, with KSI against Logan Paul, with Golovkin against Derevyanchenko, with Joshua against Ruiz, the numbers were fantastic. Obviously, we've had a rough few months. Everyone has.
Yeah, of course.
You've had a rough few months on your numbers.
Of course.
Exactly. So, but I think we should champion Dazn in America and actually look at what they've achieved and look at the value that they've given fight fans. You know, they've given you those two Canelo fights last year, Danny Jacobs and Sergey Kovalev. That's $160 on any other platform. So you need to get behind this product if you're a fight fan, because they're continuously giving you value for money. And I'm looking forward to bouncing back. And again, like what we talked about earlier, it just makes you have a little bit more spring in your step in the morning to get up and say, okay, we'll show you. You know how it's been for us in America from day one. Same as it was back in the UK when we started with Darren Barker against Sparta.
People trying to put the boot in.
Of course.
But what Dazn have actually done in that,
Amazing.
Year and a half period?
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The
The names are attached. Canelo, I mean...
Yeah, but look at the stable they've got on their platform. Look at the fights they've put on their platform. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. Are we still learning? Yes. Is the production 100% how we want it? No. It's a year and a half, essentially, from when we stopped from Garcia against Vargas. 1.5 years to build that stable, build that platform, build that software in America. It's been an incredible success. The numbers have been great. So there are people that continuously want to make up bollocks and, but embrace it. Embrace it. Because don't you want value for money? I mean, that's what you always tell me.
No, we want shit for free.
Oh, yeah, well.
We all do. Ed, I know you did your podcast, Hearn and Bellew with KSI recently.
Yeah.
Which one of your clips has done particularly well, I'll add.
Yeah, views, isn't it? Just a little clip of KSI saying he wants to fight Jake Paul.
Yeah. What is the situation with YouTube boxing as such?
Thing really, it's not really on the agenda at the moment, but KSI does want to fight Jake Paul. It definitely won't happen in 2020 because we've got enough on our plate. But I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that in 2021.
Okay. Is that the only fight you're looking at?
YouTube?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a very
I would do Logan Paul in an MMA fight.
Okay.
Against you.
Lovely. What about Gibb and Deji?
No.
No.
Not for me.
So really, it looks like it's run its course to a certain degree, apart from KSI and Jake Paul.
Not really. I just think the game's changed a little bit, and I think there's, we've got things that we've got to deal with before we look at that, and we've got a big backlog of fights that we have to make sure we clear.
Eddie, Charlie Edwards, and obviously yourselves have parted ways recently. He's joined up with Queensbury. So, you've had a good run with Charlie, though.
Yeah, fantastic. Charlie's a great guy. I wouldn't say party company. I think we just took him as far as we could, really. He'd done brilliant to win the world title. Obviously, we started out with him in his debut, and it's always amazing to start a fighter from his debut and take him to, or be a part of taking him to the World Championship. We paid up for Christopher Rosales to come to the O2 and Charlie to fight him there, boxed beautifully, defended it, and then boxed his mandatory challenger, Julio Cesar Martinez. And we remember the fight, obviously Charlie went down and Martinez hit him late. It was a no contest. It was ordered Charlie would keep his belt. And then the rematch was ordered. Charlie didn't take the rematch, and rightfully so. I think, he needed to move up in weight. It was very difficult for him to make that weight. We signed Julio Cesar Martinez, and the problem is down at that weight that I kind of feel that if you had a world title and then you don't have a world title, the landscape's completely different. And MTK come to us, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and said, would you like to make Charlie Edwards an offer? And we just said, no, I think we've just, we've done all we can with him now. And then obviously Frank made him an offer, and I think it's a really good move for Charlie, to be honest with you, linking up with his brother. He can be a real top star over there on with Queensbury and BT, and I wish him all the best. He's a great fighter, great guy, and I'll be watching out for when he fights, and hopefully he can go on and be in some big fights at super flyweight or bantamweight. Super fly is difficult, I mean, we've got the 2 world champions in Estrada and Chocolatito, great fighters, but bantam, I don't know, I'm sure he'll be in some big fights, and I think him and his brother are both very good fighters.
Yeah, new chapter for Charlie. Eddie, have you had any conversations? I know you spoke a little bit about it, but Billy Joe and Canelo, have you had any conversations with Golden Boy regarding who they could be fighting?
That'll be part of the conversations tomorrow, I'm sure, with Dazn. I think Canelo still wants to fight Billy Joe, but obviously at the moment you've got no gate. So how is it going to work? How's the dynamics going to work? How's the financials going to work? But I'll be saying to Billy Joe, subject to our conversation tomorrow with Dazn, you need to get in the gym and start thinking about this possible Canelo Alvarez fight, because I do think that things are going to spin around quite quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if we started getting crowds back in September. I'm very confident we see them back in October. To what level, we'll have to see. But as I understand it, Canelo wants to fight, and he'd like to fight in September.
Interesting. Obviously, the football season, the Premier League season, is going to start in just over a couple of weeks' time. So they obviously won't have any crowd for this season, but for next season, at some point, they're going to have crowds, aren't they? Well, not have to, but they probably will.
Well, I just think it'll be a natural transition of people being more comfortable, the numbers dying out, potentially even a vaccine. And I think we've done it right. I think we're going to be starting around the right time. I mean, the major issue for the fighters is being able to prepare properly. The British Boxing Board of Control are still recommending no sparring at the moment. That will change, I believe, in the next week or so. But fighters are back in the gym from last week and from today. So really, they're in camp now. So when you look at the start of fight camp, which is what, 7 or 8 weeks, pretty perfect timing for those guys to prepare and be ready, because this is an important moment for them on this lawn back here. This isn't going to be an exhibition fight. This is a proper tough fight they'll be in. Must win for their career in a different kind of environment, different kind of atmosphere. So they've got to make sure they prepare properly, and I'm sure they will.
Joshua Pulev, I know you made some comments recently saying that obviously you want the fight to happen here. There's rumours about Royal Albert Hall, Edward.
I just put that. I just threw that out as,
you put the rumour out. Okay.
Yeah. There is a strong chance that by the time that fight comes around, which I don't know, call it November, there will be crowds allowed back in. Now, will we be allowed 20,000? Will we be allowed 80,000? Probably not. Will we be allowed 5,000? Maybe. Will we be allowed 1,000? I think definitely. So we just got to be creative. And the Royal Albert Hall is an arena that I love. I just threw it out as an example. Next being Joshua Pulev, Royal Albert Hall. But there's loads of options. But, I think that I would love to do that fight in the UK. But obviously, if we're not allowed a crowd at all, it'd be very difficult to stage that in the UK.
So what are the realistic options if you can't have it here in the UK, as in country-wise?
Middle East, Far East, China have been on for us to stage some fights. Croatia from Team Pulev have made an approach as well. So you're never going to get short of countries wanting to stage an Anthony Joshua fight, but our preference is to stage it in the UK, and we'll exhaust all options before we make any moves.
But you reckon likely November for that?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
What's the situation regarding Chisora and Usyk? And what about Chisora coming out the other day and saying that he wants to do an MMA fight before he fights Usyk?
I'd like to see Chisora in the cage, to be honest with you. But I think firstly we'll see the Usyk fight. We're planning, again, hoping that 1,000 or so can open up for us to put that together in a very special location. So I think you're likely to see the same order as before: Dillian Whyte against Povetkin, Usyk, Chisora, and AJ against Pulev, in that order.
Okay. Ed, Joshua's made some comments on Tyson Fury, and Fury's made some comments on Joshua over the last few days. Can I just get a little reaction to this? Okay, so Tyson Fury said on Redknapp's home fixture, AJ's style is tailor-made for mine, upright, walking forward, classic defence, strong and powerful, but no footwork. Hardly any resilience, and a bit gutless when it comes down to getting clipped. I'll knock him out in 2 or 3 rounds. Joshua has said, 1 second, let me find it. He says things about me all the time, but Fury is only relevant to me the day me and him sign a contract to fight. He says a lot of controversial things, and I know if it was me, I just think he gets away with a lot.
Oh, you want me to comment on that?
Yes, please.
All right. Not a lot. I had a couple of FaceTime video missed calls from Tyson the other day. So did AJ.
Yeah?
So I had 2 missed calls. I was out in the garden, came back, and I had 2 video calls from Fury. So I phoned him back 3 times, texted him saying, sorry, mate, missed your call, but I'm around. And then spoke to AJ. I went, I had a missed call from Fury. He went, you know what? So did I. So I don't know what he was up to. I think he was just on the wind-up. But I just believe AJ beats Tyson Fury. And I believe he knocked him out. Am I going to believe that? Yeah, of course I am. I'm you know what side I'm riding with. But I think it's a wonderful, wonderful fight. And I'm very, very, very confident that you will see 1, probably 2 of those in 2021. And we're working hard to deliver that.
Do you think that we could see them fights back to back?
Yes. But you got all kinds of problems. You got the Deontay Wilder problem. You got Dillian Whyte. Is the mandatory for Tyson Fury as well? So, when we see them is interesting. I'm not sure Wilder's going to be ready this year. I've got a funny feeling. So I'd like to see Dillian jump in and fight Tyson Fury at the end of this year.
Realistic chances of that, though?
I think if Wilder's not ready, it should be absolutely 100% made. by the WBC.
Where do you stand, though, with obviously trying to keep Dillian Whyte happy and fulfilling his mandatory to putting on the biggest fight with...
Yeah, people want to see Fury against Joshua. Of course they do. It's the biggest fight ever in British boxing history. One of the biggest fights of all time in boxing history. And it's the undisputed heavyweight world championship. But we can't ignore that Dillian Whyte has been treated, in my opinion, unfairly by the WBC. And he must get his shot before February 2021, the end of February 2021. So certainly, if Wilder's not ready, then Fury must fight. And let's be honest, if Fury fights Dillian Whyte, you're still going to see an all-British undisputed fight because the winner fights AJ anyway. But we're ready to make AJ against Fury now. But we're not ignoring the fact that Dillian Whyte must get what he's been promised and what he's worked hard to do, which is a shot at the world heavyweight title.
What have you been told about Wilder's situation at the moment to make you think that he won't be ready this year?
I just, where are they going to do this fight? We haven't heard from Wilder for a long, long time. I don't know. Apparently he was injured. They had an operation. The money's not going to be great for this fight, is there? Because there's not going to be a crowd. Can they get a site fit? I don't know. No one really wants to see the fight. I don't know. All I'm saying is if Wilder's not ready and he, then Dillian should have that shot straight away.
And you'd be happy to start work on doing that fight for Fury and Whyte today?
Huge fight, by the way.
Yeah, it is a big fight.
Huge fight.
Ed, I do want to ask you something unsporting related, but the world's talking about it, so I do want to ask your opinion on the horrific video of George Floyd, which obviously has taken over the news over the last couple of weeks, and rightly so as well. But what have you made of all that?
I think it's incredibly sad. I mean, I watched the video. I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing, and when the video had finished, I wasn't even sure if it was real. To be honest with you, you can't believe that things like that go on in this day and age. But one thing I would say is, I do believe the future is bright for the future generations, because I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and she came up to me at the weekend and said, Dad, on my timeline, she's on TikTok or wherever it is, and it's all about this George Floyd guy. And I said, yeah. She said, what happened? I said, a policeman killed him. She said, why? I said, well, people are saying obviously because of the colour of his skin. And she said to me, yeah, but who cares about the colour of anyone's skin? And I said, you're 100% right. She said, I've got brown hair. It's just the same as having blonde hair. And I thought to myself, how beautifully innocent and pure is that mindset that, hate is not something, in my opinion, you wake up with, as a kid. It's something that's bred into you.
Yeah, agree.
And the reality of the situation is, when you hear a kid so basically describe the truth and the reality, it's for the older generations to listen to them in a way. The basicness of what they're saying. We're all the same. It really don't matter. But you have to understand that, you have people from that background, that community, who feel like they've always had the short end of the stick, and they've always been treated disrespectfully, and they have been. So you can't expect them not to rebel and to stand up for themselves. But it takes the whole community. It's not just black people, it's white people, it's everybody to say, this is not fair. This is not how it should be. And it's more important for parents to educate their kids on how they should treat people with respect, regardless of the colour of their skin. But the only thing I would say is that I do feel that the current community is doing that for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless you get taken into a dark world of, you know, this controversial mindset and groups of individuals that think that way. The general mindset of the next generation is equality, is fairness, is to treat everybody the same regardless of their colour of their skin. And I feel like in our generation, you may agree, that's not the case. You know what I mean? And I think it's that generation and even the older generation. But I'd like to think that racism was actually declining through the generations, because I know that the older generations and them were much, you know, I don't know if you agree, but were more racist than people are now. But it's frightening that it still exists.
Yeah, but
and unfortunately for these people, it still exists now in an era where people are filming stuff. So if you hadn't have filmed that, then you wouldn't have even known it happened. You know, this is just a guy who resisted arrest or whatever they put down on a piece of paper, and we cuffed him, and unfortunately he died in the process. No problem. Off you go. Case closed. So fortunately, it's being highlighted now, the way people are treating certain individuals. What we can't accept and tolerate is the looting of businesses and shops that looks like it's even being done by people that aren't even campaigning for the justice of George Floyd. You know? But they're opportunists. And that's wrong. Because forget Target and forget CNN, local businesses that have been built up by all kinds of different, you know, white people, black people, doesn't matter. Their businesses are being ruined and destroyed coming out the back of COVID-19 when they were already on their fucking arse. They don't deserve that. They don't deserve that. And that's got to stop. But what hasn't got to stop is the voice of the people to make sure we get justice. And by the way, those voices have to come from everybody, not just the black community. But I see it. I don't know if you feel the same, that it does seem like this has a lot of support from white people, but everybody.
Yeah,
that's fantastic, because we've all got to change. You know, and it doesn't matter. We've all got to change the mindset. But the one thing I would say, again, going back to my daughter, is I was really proud of her with the way she so basically described the truth, which is, who cares what the colour of your skin is? It's so fucking irrelevant. So irrelevant. Surely you get to a stage of maturity and you just realise we're all the same. We all bleed red. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think it's horrendous, to be honest with you, and especially coming off the back of everything that's happened. I just hope that everything can remain peaceful. But the argument is that peace don't work. You know, that's probably what some people are thinking.
Mm. Okay, Edward, just finish off just a couple of things. Eddie, pay-per-view price for White Povetkin, will it be increased?
$99.99.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it'll be the same price. Listen, we all know we're losing £1 million on the gate, so it's not ideal. But no, there won't be an increase in the price of pay-per-view. I think that would look horrific, and you know, we can't go there.
Do you like the fight between Hughie Fury and Dave Allen?
I do. I don't see how it happens at the moment in fight camp anyway, because both guys want a lot of money, too much money for a fight like that, an undercard fight without a gate.
Okay. And just finally, have you got a date penciled in for your US return?
Again, we've got a meeting tomorrow on Tuesday. It'll be July or August. And we've got a lot of fights to get out. I mean, we've still got Prograis Hooker. We've got Chocolatito against Estrada. I'd like to do Devin Haney against Luke Campbell. I mean, these are just 3 fights, 3 headline fights that we want to get out, you know, hopefully as soon as we return.
Okay. And no more conversations with Mike Tyson's team?
No. Sounds like that might be sort of drifting away a little bit. I don't know. Hope so.
Okay, Edward, have you got anything else you'd like to add before we finish?
No, just start your engines. Now is the time. Get ready to get back to work. It's going to be very difficult for people, I think, to get back up at 6, 7 in the morning, go and knock your bollocks out all day when we've had time, which we know it's been unfortunate for the country, but we have been, you know, going out for nice walks or sitting in the garden in the sun with your family and relaxing and eating barbecues and so forth. So get ready to do some fucking proper work because we've got to get back on track. It's going to be difficult. No one said it was easy, but got to work harder than ever before. Good luck.
Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for coming to IFL TV. Hopefully we'll catch up with you real soon.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Ed.
Bye.